These guys. You are always in the airgun media. You're always on YouTube and everything, showing us all these wonderful guns. I'd love to know a little bit about your own personal shooting journey. I know you were in the army. Is that where it started?
It started a little bit before that. I was in a boys' band in Surbiton where I grew up, and they had a shooting team. I joined the shooting team. It was indoor, 22 caliber Anschutz rifles actually, and we did quite well as a boys' team, and we actually did quite well in the NSRA championships, won a couple of awards, and that really got me hooked.
So how old were you at this point?
So I started at 12.
Right.
I had my first air rifle at 12 because my dad saw my passion for shooting and bought me an air rifle. So I had a break barrel spring gun at 12.
Wow.
And then...
was he a shooter as well? Did he...
No, but my family was all military. He was an engineer, which turned out to be quite a useful thing. So he was quite an established and accomplished engineer. But the whole family, apart from him, were military. In fact, my uncle was a D-Day veteran and landed on Sword Beach in the first wave and got shot there. So he had a bit to go. So I had a military background, and I also had this interest in shooting. So it then became natural to join the army, which I did as soon as I possibly could at 15. Did my junior soldier thing until I was 17 and a half, and then joined a regiment. So I joined the Queen's Regiment, another London-based mob, and I joined them, and I think I joined them in Gibraltar, and then we got posted to Northern Ireland, and that was the first of 5 Northern Ireland tours that I did. Right. And I did a career all the way through, and I was doing as much shooting as I possibly could. This is competition shooting, isn't it? Everything. Military shooting is more about running up and down ranges than actual marksmanship. But I tried to continue with my 2.2, which wasn't really possible initially. Later on it was. And then shooting military weapons, and I was the only person who ever volunteered to go on the ranges. Most people saw the ranges as something to be avoided. Really? I always was the first one to get on the ranges and try and do that. And so when opportunity knocked, I was able to get to shoot other weapons. There's always something happening, that you could slide sideways and shoot a Radin cannon or a Barrett. So I'm guessing that the air rifles in this stage kind of faded in. Yeah, they'd gone by this point. There was no opportunity for it, and really until I suppose I was lucky enough to get posted to Canterbury as an instructor, a signals instructor, for 2 years, and I went then I think 85 or 86. And there was a bludgeoning or started up field target club at Canterbury Invicta, and a friend and I went down there to see how crazy they all were, and if it was something we could do. I went down. I bought an Air Arms borer. That'll please Claire. And I had a side lever with a tube 2.2 caliber. So it had a rudimentary loading thing that if you held it right, it loaded. And I had that, and I shot my first competitions with that. A friend of mine had an HW77, and I remember him putting an old Army China cup out at 40 yards, where with the bore you could hit the cup. With the HW, you could knock chunks off the handle, So I bought that off him, carried on shooting with that, and then because I'd been in Germany for 5 years, and we were slightly involved in SA-80, which was just coming through its trials and developments from sort of 1980 to 85 when it was introduced. I was fascinated by that in the early versions of it. We had them around us in Germany where I was able to... so you're still in the army at this point? I was still in the army, yes. Okay. I was on a training thing. So I'd had some time with the SA-80, loved the concept. I'd seen the EM2 on courses at Warminster, the School of Infantry's at Warminster, and they had a small museum at the time, and they had one EM2 up on the shelf. And the curator, had been kind enough to show it to me. And there's a bit of history behind the EM2 bullpup where we didn't get it, and because of the Americans, you see. And consequently, I was fascinated by that. So when a bullpup air rifle came along, in sort of 87, 88,
Okay.
I had to have one.
So which rifle was that?
So it was a deal between Daystate and Venom Arms, and they had taken some early Daystate Mark 1s, Huntsman Mark 1s, and put them into a bullpup stock they've made. They'd actually made the stock for the Sharpin Over, but they hadn't really sold any of those, so they had to do something with this stock. So they put a Daystate.
Sharpin Over bullpup.
Yeah, I've never seen one. They're out there somewhere. If you've got one, I'd love to see it. But they had the front end cut, so you could pump it.
Right.
And then they did a conversion on a Diana 52. In a bullpup. Again, I've seen a picture of one of those. I think they did one, maybe. And then they started to do the Daystate. They didn't do very many Daystates, but I went and bought one. I had to wait months for it. I had to buy an Action from Keen's Guns to send to Venom to put it in because Daystate couldn't provide one because they didn't have any. And eventually got that rifle and I started shooting field target with it.
You still got the rifle?
I've still got the rifle. It's been on camera a couple of times. People may have seen it. It's a very old girl. When you fire it, the lock time is like a matchlock. You fire it and wait. Big puff of smoke, and then it goes off. But not quite that bad. But it is definitely. I mean, you do notice it's an old gun.
I suppose it gives you the appreciation of how things have developed.
Yes, I can remember a few years ago taking out the cab and thinking I'll go and do an HFT with this, and I couldn't hit a barn door with it. But at the time it was really state of the art, and in that short concept rifle, it was quite revolutionary.
So you were still in the army when you started your HFT competition shooting?
Well, FT, because HFT hadn't been thought about, so we were doing FT. I shot in a few of the the first World Championships. I was in the national team a few times. Just by the fact that I was there, and I was going to these places. We were going to America and shooting in quite a few competitions in the States.
Any silverware at all from that?
Yeah, quite a few. I often said that I've got the most extensive collection of fifth place trophies you've ever seen. I mean, fifth place in every match you could ever mention.
Fourth best loser.
More or less, yeah. So I didn't win much, but I did. I was up there, and that was a challenge. In some very competitive competitions. So I did that. I shot in the military championships and various bits and pieces. Again, running the shooting teams mostly, coaching the shooting teams, running up and down the ranges, and getting there eventually, and doing relatively well in that. And then when I left the army, I had to decide what to do.
Yes.
So that's always a challenge whenever you're leaving the army. After 22 years, what can you at that age do? And I decided to stay in the gun trade. I started my own company, initially with an idea of joining Daystate, but they were in a funny situation at that point.
What was that company doing, business doing?
My own company was Gun Gear Products, and we were making camouflage gun bags, and then we moved into camouflage clothing, and then accessories. And I started to buy air rifles to sell as an accessory, and it was a nice little company. In Ipswich, actually just outside Ipswich. Ran that for about, I had it running before I left the army, so that I was able to step into it. And then I ran it full-time for 5 years. But which time, I think on the third occasion, Daystate offered me the job. I decided to join them. Initially as a company rep, driving round. It was going to be a 2-day-a-week job. Also doing gun gear at the same time. But it was quite clear they needed me more than that.
And when was this roughly? Early
so this is 2000. So 2000, 2001. Whenever the foot and mouth crisis happened, that was my first week. So that was that was the start. Walked straight into an absolute farming crisis where we couldn't get out the door.
Great for the shooting industry.
Yes,
wonderful.
And that was it. So I joined Daystate then. Initially 2 days a week, then 3 days and full time. Pretty much full time, almost straight away. And stayed with them on and off ever since.
So do you get much chance to shoot now?
I do, yes. I shoot quite a lot. I don't do competitions anymore, so I kind of... So once field target... I didn't have time for field target once I joined Daystate. It was just... There was too much... I did it on occasions when there was a team member short, because Daystate had its own team. I would join it, but I didn't... I was using up information that I'd learned when I wasn't part of Daystate. And at some point, you have to change the scope, you have to change the rifle, and the 2-3 months it takes to set everything up. I didn't have that time. So I think pretty much after about the first 6 months or a year, I faded away from field target. But then Hunter Field Target started. It was originally called Sporting Field Target, and we were involved in setting it up, and AGS, which then became later Webley, were also doing a fantastic job, I might say, in setting up this hobby that didn't require 1,000-pound guns as they were then, and 60 power magnification scopes. They, like us, wanted something that ordinary people could step into with the gear that they owned, rather than what was becoming very specialized equipment. So we tried in Field Target to not let that happen, to try and keep the equipment more ordinary, but we couldn't fight against the tide, which was turning into high magnification scopes, specialist target rifles, floppy boots, funny hats. It hasn't quite gone there, but it is very close to. It's more close to target than field shooting. So we decided to develop Hunter Field Target to try and bring in the ordinary shooter and his guns. Now, we only partially succeeded there, but we did succeed for a number of years in keeping the guns at entry level. Certainly got closer than Field Target, and I was involved in that. So I shot that for a few years. Again, extensive collection of fifth place trophies in that, and then moved on. More again, leaving that later on to a stay in the career of shooting casually at Daystate. But I mean, that doesn't mean I don't shoot. I shoot virtually every day. I'm either setting something up, zeroing something for a journalist, or helping with the fault finding, or maybe seeing development equipment, testing something. So I do get quite a lot of shooting in, but not so much on the range. It's here and there.
So final question, Tony. Walk us through your own personal gun collection.
Well, I haven't got that many. I don't need that many because I'm surrounded by demonstrator guns. I have a few relics left over from various things. I've got my wife's pink and purple and gold gun, which I built for a few years ago, which I don't think she's ever shot. Well, she shot a few times, that's unfair, but not much.
But I'm guessing they're exclusively or mainly Daystate rifles?
They are.
The older ones?
Yes, for a little while, I think in the early noughties, I did leave Daystate for a little while, and I decided to sell off everything because I didn't need it because I was moving to another company. So I got rid of pretty much everything apart from the things I couldn't bear to lose. But so I haven't got too much of my own, but I say I've got access to probably 40 rifles at Daystate. Daystate has its own collection, which I've collected for them. So we do have a historic collection of older Daystates, which kind of over the years we've gradually built up.
Up and do a little segment on those because it's up the stairs and in there.
You've got 20 up the stairs, but I have 40, but I've only got a wall strong enough to hold 20. So I've got some very early Don Lowndes guns, some of the early Daystates, and moving into the last one on the wall is a 2005, and then in the meeting room I have 2005 onwards to probably, I think we stopped about 7 or 8 years ago, because what's the point of showing a modern one? And then downstairs we have all the modern stuff as well. So there's a number of guns at Daystate for anybody who's interested.
So final question, Tony. If you were going to walk into a HFT competition now, which Daystate rifle would you take?
Well, I'd try to take all of them because you never have too much choice. But I think that the Red Wolf for me is still the number one gun. I think the Alpha Wolf gives it a good run for its money. If I'm going to own one gun, I would own an Alpha Wolf because it's got enough technical information in there to just have everything and future-proofed as well. Whereas the Red Wolf is at the peak of its game. I'm not saying the end of its game, but it's at the peak of its performance. There's not too much more we can do with a Red Wolf to make it any better. The Alpha Wolf has got a lot of engine left in it. But if I was going to shoot a competition today, I would definitely be picking the Red Wolf because when you put it up against anything, it holds its own and in my view, better.
As all the silverware around the world has proven.
Absolutely right. It's not by accident that you look down the line at the extreme bench rest, and it's a sea of now different coloured, but it was a sea of red, but now it's a sea of blue, red, brown, and every other colour under the sun. So there's definitely red wolves there. Alpha wolves are there, but they're still not quite hitting the silver as the red wolf is.
Right. Cool. Well, thanks, Tony.
Okay.
I think we can do some shooting now.
Why not? Yeah, for a change.